Good evening, citizens of Portsmouth, my colleagues on council, city staff, and other guests. I now call our meeting to order, and before I begin with the agenda, I want to acknowledge sitting right next to me is certainly not our city attorney, LaVonda Graham Williams, but her deputy, City Attorney Jeff Miller. We want to welcome Jeff to the dais today. Now, if I could ask all of us to please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, thank you, and I would ask my colleagues to please note your attendance electronically.
6 members of City Council are present.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have the minutes of a called meeting of July 11, 2023, and a regular meeting of July 11, 2023. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes?
Move for adoption.
Second.
Madam, I would ask all my colleagues to please vote electronically.
What'd you do? What do you do? Can we vote now? Okay, you can vote now. Thank you.
Please vote electronically.
The minutes are adopted 6-0.
Thank you, ma'am. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the speaker's statement?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep. We ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
We have now moved to the agenda item, City Manager's Report, item 23-250. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance we are considering pertaining to this item?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting community development block grant program income in the amount of $59,628.50 and appropriating said amount in the FY 2024 Community Planning and Development Program Fund.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have a speaker for this item, and that speaker is Ms. Donna Biggs.
Good evening. My name is Donna Lee Biggs. I live at 3104 Garland Drive in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 23-250 is an ordinance accepting $59,628.50 from the Community Development Block Grant Program of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. There is a process for the Planning Commission to ask for funding from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. The Planning Commission has requirements made available to the citizens for his or her participation. The Planning Commission provides the citizens timely access to local meetings, information, and records relating to the Planning Department's proposed and actual use of the CDBG funds. These records should include available funds, available activities, past use of the CDBG funds, and a description of proposed activities to use the funds. There's a requirement for a second public hearing to solicit public input on the proposed Community Development Block Grant proposal that will be submitted to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for the project. The project will include the list of activities, which will include beneficiaries, along with the fact sheet on the proposed project and the location. Agenda item 23-250 is not supporting the requirements of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. How is this lack of communication going to be fixed? Here's the communication. Let's look at the budget book for the year 2024 for the Department of Community and Economic Development on page 196. The divisions of this department are the Community Planning and Development Program, Economic Development, Newport Community Development Authority, Permits and Inspection, and Planning. So that's in the budget book. Next, look at the organizational structure of the city. In the column under the city manager, there are 4 departments. The second one is the Community and Economic Development with the 2 divisions of Economic Development Department and the Permits and Inspection. There is 1 city council liaison and citizens sitting on the Economic Development Authority. In the column under the Deputy City Manager, there are 6 departments. The third one is the Community and Economic Development with the Planning Department with 6 boards of commissions listed. How are we going to fix the communication system in our city, even though we have 2 council liaisons and citizens appointed to the commission? All the community and economic development decisions that need to be combined under one and get rid of the Economic Development Authority. See the boards and commissions manual for information. Appoint me a city manager for a year for $50,000, starting Labor Day of 2023 until Labor Day of 2024, and I will labor for the people and establish a finance commission for funding checks and balances to prevent issues like 23-250.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, would you please vote electronically?
This item is adopted 6-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next agenda item is new business, item 23-251, boards and commissions. And Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, do we have any boards and commissions to consider?
Yes, sir. Mayor, we do. We have an appointment to the Community Policy and Management Team, Valerie Jordan Hunter, and to the Towing Advisory Board, Scott Maxwell and Thomas Stalling. Those are the recommendations.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Is there any additional discussion on these items? I would ask then that each of you please vote electronically.
This item is adopted 6-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
We have now come to item 23-252, items submitted by council members. Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution that we are considering at this time?
Yes, sir. A resolution to amend the rules of order and procedure of the Portsmouth City Council for the purpose of clarifying the process for the removal of members from meetings.
Thank you, ma'am. And council members, we are in need of a motion and a second.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, would you please vote electronically?
This item is adopted 4-2.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other items to be submitted by council? Dr. Whitaker, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, this is for our interim city manager. Just follow up on the disparity study report. I thought that it was a July date.
We're reviewing the results, and so we had a meeting that was canceled due to some scheduling conflicts, but that should be finalized by the end of the month.
So MGT has submitted the report.
There was she had to go back and look at something, but it'll be done by the end of the month.
Okay, all right. And also well, I don't know, you can't answer. This is dealing with the Sugar Hill report from Dr. Cassandra Alexander, Dr. Cassandra Newby Alexander, the scheduling of that, and that's probably the city attorney, when she gets back, can give us. But if you would, if we could invite our state representatives and our federal representative to that report whenever we set that date. And also, I hope we will give her ample time to give a thorough report, and also time for questioning. So as we set the schedule for that day, I hope we keep it open enough for us to have a very robust discussion on that. And so I don't know if that's something council has to agree on as far as inviting the state and federal. Okay, all right.
No, sir.
Okay, and then the other issue deals with Mount Herman and the Bernard Griffin Park. Got a call from a citizen in regards to money being raised to put a bench in the park, and also our interim city manager is aware of the sprinkler issue with the grass out there. And just hoping that with the amount of funds we have in taxes, I don't think citizens need to be raising money to put benches in a public park. And so if that's something our interim city manager can see, if we have $2,400 in the budget to put 2 benches there in the Bernard Griffin Park, so that citizens don't have to be taxed twice in raising funds.
If you don't, if I could please speak to that. So, we sat down and, can y'all hear me?
No. Mike isn't on.
I sat down with the Community Development Block Grant, and I sat down with the community person that you are referencing for the Bernard Griffin Park. And I informed he, as well as the group that he was with, as well as the civic league leader, that we had budgeted for some additional $13,000, as a matter of fact. We requested that through CDBG because this came up, because we've so far spent $400,000 on the Bernard Griffin Park. I've already spoke with the civic leader when I met with them at the park, and we discussed turning over the field, I'll say the field, and for flowers or grass to grow. We've talked about the covering, we've talked about another grill, and we've talked about the benches. The raising of money donation-wise, that was their decision. It had nothing to do with us saying you have to go do that. That was their decision. But I have sat down with CDBG, with our person, and we did put those funds aside in the request for the CDBG budget for '24. But I want to clarify, there is no irrigation in the Bernard Griffin Park, no matter what they tell you, is under that green bucket. It's not there. It has never been there. We've had a site plan. I've looked at it. It's not there. I am not able to relay that enough, what I'll say. But again, I made sure that when we sat down with CDBG funding to determine that, knowing that they had some additional wants, that we would cover that, so they wouldn't have to go after donated funds.
Okay.
But I just can't help them with the water.
Okay, so they're aware that you have the funds available to
I've
take care.
told them 1,000 times,
Okay.
but
All right. And my last issue, Mr. Mayor, is not really something for the city manager council per se, but I just want to comment that at our last council meeting, it was highly disturbing to sit here, particularly as an African-American elected official, during the public hearing on the use permit for the book club and the McElroys. I found it highly disturbing to listen to the racial tropes that were being used, bringing up black scare and fear, speaking of violence and drug use. Those were things that were racial stereotypes. And I don't think that we should tolerate listening to those type of comments coming from our citizens. Also, I was concerned that we had a report from our chief of police regarding the site. And I just want to make sure, is that a precedent that we're going to be setting now, as far as when there are violations that occur, that somehow will be prohibitive of persons getting a use permit. I thought it was very informative that we were told by the city officials that the purpose of the use permit is to get persons into compliance. And so I was highly concerned. I would like to say to our citizens, though, who come here and speak a lot about unity and moving forward together, that if you truly believe in that, it can't be just situational. Persons sitting here listening to such racial tropes and stereotypes being used, I didn't hear any citizens come before council in 2015 when you had a killing there at Roger Brown, when you had the killing at Cock Island Grill in March of 2019, citizens didn't come. When you had the killing in November of 2021 at Griff's, I didn't hear any citizens coming here asking for licenses to be revoked, and I didn't hear council members raising that. And so I think that it's time that we try to make sure that as we move forward, that we respect the humanity of everyone and not allow for what happened at our last council meeting. I know there's a movement across the country, a lot of ideologies that are coming forward that are looking to take us back. But I refuse to sit here as a council member and to allow such comments. And Mayor, I don't think we should tolerate those types of behaviors. So I just wanted to express that.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Lucasberg, sir, ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a few things that I'd like to bring to attention. We know that July is Minority Mental Health Month, and I'm always asking, what are we doing? What are we bringing to the attention? Do we have any little ribbons or anything? But our Dr. Woodard, who is the Director of Behavioral Health Care Services, did put on an excellent event on July 15th. It was the Minority Mental Health Awareness Walk, and it was right over here in our Festival Park. We walked for over 2 miles on the seawall down to the visitor center and back, and it was a very healthy walk, very well attended, and I'd like to applaud them for their efforts with that, with this awareness. And this was the first one. I think they did a phenomenal job with the DJ, the food trucks, the speakers, and even had a Zumba exercise person out there. And so everyone that was there enjoyed it. So applaud them for their efforts with that. Social Services also had their community day concurrently with that, and they had some pretty good activities there with child ID cards and free massages. The fire truck was there, of course, and the organization that I am the liaison for this council, Stop Inc., had their tech bus there, and I thought that was good, and the line dancing, give people something to do on their Saturdays and get them moving. And during the farmer's market, so I was busy on that Saturday, went down and I had an opportunity to take advantage of the welding challenge. And of course, my first score didn't end up quite well, but I was holding my mask with one hand and I was drilling with the other hand. So my second attempt, I did make a 79%. So I thought that was good with doing that with one hand. And it's just fun. I think you all ought to go out and try that. We have also an event that I attended, Giving Our Girls Power, a free basketball camp for girls of all ages. And Mr. Darrell Redmond, who Give Back to the Block, put that on with Mr. Copeland and Mr. Earl, who you all see at our city council meetings, and it was phenomenal. I didn't know that many little girls wanted to play basketball, but there was about 19, 20 girls in attendance, and they were doing some phenomenal things. I mean, some of them can really handle that ball, so that was a great opportunity for that camp, for them to be able to get that exposure and to get that experience, and I was pleased to be invited to come out and to speak to them for that. So Darrell Redmond is here. We applaud you for putting on that and providing that opportunity, empowering our girls, because we need to be empowered in our communities. And one thing that I have for a report back, I don't know if my council colleagues received a call or an email about our neighbors over in Port Norfolk. I don't know if we've ever had a presentation on this, but everybody's complaining about this sewer station that's back behind, I think it's Detroit Avenue, Douglas in Florida, okay, and I think he lived on Detroit, so I'm getting all his addresses over there mixed up. But if we could get some kind of report on what's going on with them. They said the center is old, the equipment is old, the stuff backs up into their yard, and I don't know. I mean, we getting calls and we don't know how to address it. So if we could get a report back on that, maybe a presentation, and that would be helpful. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Hugel, sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So I think Councilman Tillage raised this a couple of meetings ago. I want to bring it back up and keep it in front of us. We discussed at the council retreat, a retreat with the Economic Development Authority to talk about our waterfront plan. We need to get off top dead center and get going. September's coming. Can we pick a date and mark our calendars and get everybody kind of lined up to have that discussion? We need to get moving on that. That's it, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Tillage, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And to add that interim city manager, she was at the EDA meeting last week, and we spoke about that and also have a meeting with PRHA. So if we can get a date surveyed out, I would appreciate it. So on this past, about 2 Saturdays ago, I attended the CUTS annual gala. CUT stands for Cleaning Up the Streets, celebrating their 2nd year of service to the city of Portsmouth. And one thing that's unique about this organization is that they are connecting young people to workforce development opportunities, kids that are in disenfranchised communities, and connecting them with job resources, and then also helping them to stay the right course. And so I just want to commend that organization for what they do. Also, I attended the 40th anniversary of the HRT ferry that has been servicing citizens of Portsmouth and Norfolk for the past 40 years. Over the last 40 years, they have brought over 16 million pedestrians to and from the water side of Norfolk to port side here in the city of Portsmouth. It was a great celebration to have leaders from the city of Portsmouth, Norfolk, and on the regional level, as well as the team who initially helped to get the ferry here 40 years ago. At the ribbon ceremony, at the 40th anniversary ceremony, they also mentioned the expansion of their fleet. And so over the next year, we will see 2 additional ferries. I believe it's ferry number 6 and 7, added to the fleet to continue to provide services and to enhance the services that are being provided by HRT. One thing I kind of found out that was kind of unique about this ferry was they have a 98% on-time rate. So they stick to time schedules. And so I would love to work for them. They stick to time schedules. Also, National Night Out is August the 1st, and that's going to be led by the Portsmouth Police Department. August the 1st, right here at Festival Park, outside outside of the Atlantic Union Pavilion, from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And so we look forward to seeing all members of the community come be a part of what they're calling the giving, basically saying goodbye to crime party, I think something like that. So come on out and be a part and help to bring awareness to crime prevention, and also come out and get to know your police officers and other community members throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I just have one thing to add. I want to personally thank on behalf of the council, the members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the Epsilon Nu Lambda Portsmouth chapter, President Derek Whitaker, and Dr. Andrew Powell. This past weekend, Saturday, as I was driving up Frederick Boulevard, I stopped my car because there were a lot of young men walking in the middle of the boulevard, and they were picking up trash and cleaning up. And so I was excited about residents taking the initiative to clean our city, as we just heard. And when I got out of the car, many of my friends who are members of Alpha Phi Alpha, they were there, and they were very appreciative that the mayor stopped by and recognized the work that they do. It is my understanding that those members do that on a quarterly basis in each of the cities in which they serve. So if you don't know Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Epsilon Nu Lambda chapter, I would ask that you get to know them. And if you see any of their members, please stop them and say thank you for their efforts in helping to keep our city, their city, clean. The next item, 23-253, is report on pending items. Do you have any pending items to report, ma'am?
Yes.
You have the floor.
Churchland section of Portsmouth will be mosquito sprayed tomorrow night, Wednesday, July 26th. In the event of weather or mechanical delays, the mission will take place on Thursday, July 27th. Again, mosquito spraying in Churchland will be tomorrow evening, and if there are any weather constraints, it will continue on Thursday, July 22nd. 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have now come to item 23-254, and that is our non-agenda speaker item. And Madam Clerk, would you please read the speaker's statement?
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of the City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our first speaker for this evening is Ms. Brenda Walton. Ms. Walton, if you are here, if you would please come forward, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes. Ms. Walton isn't present, so we will go to our next speaker on the list, who is Mr. Cedric Cradle. Mr. Cradle, if you would please come forward, state your name and address, sir. You will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, citizens of Portsmouth. I'm here on behalf of Unseen Tears. First of all, I'm here to come before you to thank the men and women of the Portsmouth Police Department, especially the Homicide Division, on the behalf of Melania Everett. Her case was adjudicated. The young men who were responsible for her death have been convicted, and they should be going to serve their time. So again, the Portsmouth Police Department, I give you your roses and your cheers because you deserve it. But it amazes me, and I hate to turn the corner on this, but it amazes me that there's not an election in front of us, and you hear none of you guys talking about crime, especially a lot of you guys who ran on it, who stood out in front of your communities and told the people you would change certain things about crime, but you hear nothing about it anymore. So I implore the community and the citizens to demand from the people that you voted for to do what they say they're going to do and do something about crime. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's all you hear right now. You got a young 3-year-old child that got shot in the bottom. You got another person that got shot in a particular area of London Oaks. There's a lot going on. But hearing more about crime, but you don't hear about job opportunities in Portsmouth. You don't hear about trade schools. You hear them in here. I hear a lot of people saying where they went to these meetings and did these things, but out there you don't hear it. And people lose hope. And I'm telling you, you don't have to believe me, but I'm out there. The people in your community are losing hope, not just in you, but in your city. And there's going to be a lot of problems coming that I've already told you that was going to happen in the city of Portsmouth. But again, because it's me, nobody wants to listen. But again, I urge the citizens to reach out to your council people. And if you ran on that ticket of crime, do something about it. And another thing, Unseen Tears lost a young man who lost his son to gun violence 2 years ago. His name is James Rocket. He stood up there with me and the chief of police, the interim chief. He was the interim chief then, Chief Jenkins. He stood up there with his nephew, with his son's picture, where he got killed about 2 weeks ago. And his homicide is unsolved. And I come before you to say again, we have a problem. And I hate the fact that one day, and I'm hoping it never happens, but just imagine me standing next to you and you being on that list. I mean, it's just heartfelt, and people don't think it's gonna happen to them. I didn't think it would happen to him, but he's gone, he's dead and gone now. So again, my thoughts and prayers go out to his family. And, most of the time I come up here and, I say the names. But I had to mention his name because he's the last one on the list. But it's just unfortunate that maybe that could have never happened. He died the same way his son died. It's unfortunate, But these are the homicide victims in the city of Portsmouth. Charles Mosley, Corey Turd, Manuel Turd, Jeffrey Bazemore, Jaquan Johnson, Carlton Dodd, Tashik Wolf, Anthony Skeeter, Raekwon Morgan, Natasia Hicks, Jamel Howard, Darion Granger, Amaja Lee, Damon Mitchell, Lakeisha Smith, DeAndre Morrison, Joshua Sykes, Antoine Wiggins, Talik Farmer, Vernon Norville, Yashim Caraway, which was James' son, James Hill, Dante Copeland, Robert Artis, Malcolm Hoskins, Javar Williams, Kamadri Howard, Daquan Epps, Omar Booker, Robert Langston, Nicholas Suggs, Richard Tucker, Timothy Shine, Brian Williams, Marquell, Curtis Walton, Kyrie Thomas, William Selfridge, Carlson Baines, Antonio Bunch, Curtis Richardson, Andre Hall, Kiara, Victor Green, David Branch, Lawrence Kofa, Crystal Jacobs, Derek Parker, Demetrius White, Booby Staten, Melania Everett, Marion Collins, Andrea Bethea, Kareem Barchet, Rodney Anderson, Gary Fields, Jamont Mitchell, Keith Warren, Raekwon Gray, Deion Lofton Jr. Mayor, can I finish this? Thanks, Mayor. Georgia Devontae Lee, Alicia Deion Mears, Ashley Merricks, Robert Parker, Dalen Spence, Terrence A. Johnson, Delvin Crosby, Tyrell Jones, Ariel McLaren, Jazavier Hill, Keandre Jenkins, John Plummer, Bernard Clack, Mays Moon, Anthony Brown, Jaquan White, Christopher Washington, Clifton Privet, Ashante Britt, Lamont Brown, Donald Thornton, Calvin Colston, Desiree Lightfoot, Tiante Clark, Ronnie Trurian, Jesse Hogg, Johnny Freeman, Jameer Barnes, Corey Harris, Mashik Burden, William Jones, Ralph Harris, Kiana Bailey, Elvis Blaze, Melvin Bynum, Samuel Jones, Naquan Madison, Shaquila Branch, Clinton Hampton, Romeo Shroud, Javante Martin, Micaiah Freeman, Terrence Palmer Jr., Lee Sawyer III, Alvin Joyner, Calvin Joyner, Terry Miller, Jordan Snipes, Glenn Wallace, Tyree McPherson, Albert Henderson Jr., Elazaria Selby, Aliyah Johnson, Carlos Cordova, Carlos Castro Marilla, Tyler Bardille, Liam Fox, Jason Randolph, Michael Roberts, Rocco Nixon, David Williams Jr., and James Rocket III. And again, I implore to the City Council, please put out in front what we are doing for crime. Because the same energy that we want to...
Thank you, sir.
Yes, same energy we want to put out about the casino, let's put about what we're doing for crime.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Barnes, sir, you have the floor.
I just wanted to say I thought Mr. Cradle had a valid point when it came to job opportunities for our citizens, because that's one of the things that lead to crime when you don't have certain opportunities and you don't have money. As somebody who grew up in Portsmouth, that was one of the things that was an issue for me, and I did certain things that I'm not necessarily proud of, but I learned from. I know we talked about meeting with the EDA. I would like to see personally, and I don't know how council feel about this, but a comprehensive plan from the EDA director on what we're doing to recruit business opportunities to the city. Because just to be honest, I haven't seen any real big opportunities come to the city. I mean, I know as a council we just passed a storage facility, but that's not going to bring a lot of job opportunities for our citizens, and I don't want them to feel like they're in a hopeless situation. We need opportunities so we can keep people in the city, and not only will those jobs keep people in the city, bring people to our city, but they'll spend tax dollars, which will allow us to fix other services and help with our police department when it comes to giving them raises and things of that nature. But I just wanted to see what are we doing to recruit jobs. I know we get a lot of people that inquire about coming and doing business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's a good opportunity for our citizens. So I want to know, what is EDA doing to recruit quality jobs to the cities and opportunities for our citizens?
Thank you, sir. Councilman Tillage, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, the speaker had made mention to things that council was doing to address crime, and so I just wanted to reference the June 27th public work session that our police chief and city manager had put together addressing crime. And one of the things that they did, which Mr. Cradle was a proponent of, was CCTVs and the integration of camera systems throughout the city. And so that's part of the plan that the city, the city manager and the police chief have put together on top of a comprehensive list of things, including 911 upgrades, speed cameras, real-time crime center, And so I just want to reference that. And so just for public's information and also for Mr. Cradle, that meeting was June the 27th. And, once you have a time to be able to look at that presentation, feel free to, come back and speak, and we'll have some more conversation.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Albert White. Mr. White, if you're present, please come forward, state your name and address. Sir, you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, council, mayor, city manager. My name is Albert White, Chesapeake, Virginia. I'm retired at the city of Portsmouth after 35 years. I was once the sanitation superintendent. Prior to that, I was the supervisor in sanitation. I happened to see your work session, and I replaced, matter of fact, Deborah White's daddy, Mr. Diggs. Debbie, how you doing? Hope you're doing fine. I can answer all the questions that council brought up. Mr. Tillage, you were correct about the signs that were important off it. I will correct you, they were the first Monday and Tuesdays of the month. That was because of the parking, because it's hard to get in there. The alleys are supposed to be maintained, or they used to be maintained by Public Works. They would go in there, they would grade them, they would cut them down first with the motor grader, they would grade them. You never had all those dips going in and out of the alleys. The alleys over in Waterview, you have so many people that have their property is on the city easement. You have VEPCO has telephone poles on the city easement. You have trees on the city easement. Trees that are on personal property but hang over the city right of way, the city has the right to cut those. That's an issue. Everything that city manager brought up in my 35 years is the same things that we brought up to city council. I was in the beginning, implementing the beginning when we went to the automated trash pickup. I built those cans. I delivered those cans. I walked behind every can in this city. I also am the one that did all the homework for your recycling, just to be told not to do it anymore when Mr. Bagley told me that I was no longer able to do my job as the sanitation superintendent. Okay? So all your questions, I know that you didn't, know, I can answer them all because I was involved in it. One of the problems you have is lack of equipment, lack of employees. You have 9 routes. 9 routes. Each day they go out, there's 9 routes. When you have 4 or 5 trucks trying to cover 9 routes a day, you're going to do nothing but go backwards. It's inevitable. The holidays really were never the problem. They're never the problem. We always got them done. It's not being able to get your equipment fixed and repaired. When I was over there, Mr. Thorne was our operation manager. Mr. Thorne and I would go over to the garage and work on our trucks. We would fix the hoses. We would change the hydraulic cylinders. We would do anything we could to keep our equipment on the street. I was also in charge of the street sweepers. We would work on our equipment to get our equipment out on the street. Mr. Diggs, Mr. Thorne and I would take trucks out and pick up trees, pick up the trash. You have to get your employees together to work together. That was a big issue. That's not my job. When I had to build the trash cans, I'd go to get some help. That's not my job. So what I do, I shut the sweepers down. We took care of it. So what you're trying to do with the calling system, we tried it. It lasted 1 week. We tried so many things, and I can tell you why it lasted 1 week. First of all, we were not even involved in it. We get a call from downtown saying, on this date, this is how you're going to pick it up. The phone started ringing. 4 of us, myself included, could not get out of the office because we had to answer the telephones. Okay? If you want to have a call center, you need to set up a separate call center. A separate call center would be the best way. I called Chesapeake when we were doing this. Talked to the ladies there, they're laughing at me because they went through that same thing. I'd be willing to talk with you. Like I said, I know it, so, every one of you had good questions. You had very good questions. And it can be done, but the people have to work together, the citizens have to work together. When we tried it, last week, Mr. Chandler, when he was the city manager, called me. First thing he asked me was, did we have any input? I said no. He asked me to be honest with him. So I told him all the problems. He ended it that Friday. Because it was such a cluster. Okay?
Mr. White, thank you for your service to the city, and our city manager wanted to make a comment, so if you would remain, sir.
Sir, I thank you for all of your hard work and dedication for the city. I think that, again, one of the things that I pride myself on is getting it done and not just talking about it. We saw that there was a real a need, and so bringing it before council, I'm not sure how they did it in the past, but I believe in being transparent, so, because council gets the calls. We get the complaints, council gets the calls. And one of the things that I do, and the reason that I'm aware of what's going on, is the mandatory meetings, I'm there at 7 a.m., bless Jesus, to be there to say, this is a safe space, talk to me, because your challenge is going to be my challenge. And so when you say how we, work together, that's a number one priority for me when it comes to the employees, especially operations. They're out there every day, 90-degree weather, doing what, I found we didn't have enough cones, vests. There are things that I'm willing to put myself on the line for to ensure that our employees are our number one priority, because they're our number one asset. I apologize that all of the things that you wanted to do or had input or didn't have input in didn't get done, but I can promise you they will be done now.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. It will happen.
Seriously. I mean, because we tried it, been there, done that. Your contractors, we were told by the city attorneys that we were not allowed to go after contractors.
It's a different day.
And no disrespect to you, you opened up some cans of worms by your dump site.
And I'm okay with that. I can handle it.
You opened up, just a question, you showed pictures of private property. Now, why aren't the people who own that property held responsible? Put a fence up. We had neighbors, we had problems in this city where we had trees, and we talked to the people who owned it, and they thinned it out. We didn't have no dump sites anymore.
We got it, though. It's different leadership. Only thing I can do is say, keep watching.
I've been watching.
Well, all I will say, the momentum is now. It's a new day. What happened in the past is just what it is, the past. Today is a new day, and tomorrow is coming.
Well, we had a saying that the only thing, in my 35 years, the only thing that changed in Portsmouth, no disrespect to anybody, were the faces, because the codes aren't enforced.
Listen, well, this is not the time, and we're not going to be disrespectful to Portsmouth. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Sheila Joseph. Ms. Joseph, if you would come forward, ma'am, state your name and address. You will have 5 minutes.
I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to hear me. And I won't be going over everything of the past, but I'm going to just bring you all up to the present of what have done and have not done. In the past, and I can't say Ms. Terry is responsible, I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk with her, but I would like to schedule a time to address the issue of Fairville. I recall Mayor Glover and Vice Mayor at the time wanted to get with us in the previous time when Ms. Jones was addressing the issue of Fayetteville. And I won't go through everything, but I had written a letter to Congress about the HR bill that I received because of my flooded streets and my property being over flooded. It's I know it's doing foundation. I talked to people about my problem in 2016. Then I talked about the HR, and it's documented, 3684. Today, I'm gonna say a little bit about, I was talking about, I'm glad y'all addressed some of the things. I said I was disappointed that my granddaughter come from DC, and I was riding on our streets, and it was bumpy, and, you know, she was bouncing in my vehicle, brand-new vehicle, and I said, it's a city problem. And then the answer came about how much money it was for to take care of the street. On November the 10th, from Congress, and President signed off for the certain amount of money for the bridges and the streets. I won't name it because it's on my website. You go to twcmadonline.com. Anybody in the world can see it because I got enough of talking and talking. And so I feel like I'm talking to a wall. Mayor, you have asked for assistance, and Ms. Chapman and the other Ms. Jones. Now I would like to hear what we're gonna do to get back on track. It was a tree that the what you call Public Works removed, and it cost a lot of money, but I videoed it, and we haven't had anything done to address the drainage. I'm paying for drainage and don't have a drainage. Storm drain or nothing that, and that's why I'm catching all the water. And my house have been severely damaged from 2016 up to now. When we have heavy rain, my son, we buy sand and throw in my home because of resort of things that Portsmouth haven't done about allowing me to have a drainage. I will say that I'm proud to say that $738 million for the leaded pipes in Virginia. I talked to Congress again, but I happened to be in Norfolk for an event, and he said Portsmouth has more than enough to address the pipes for their portion of money of the leaded pipes. Family members and different ones are dying. And we was flood victims in the community right up to now. And we addressing, and I saw on the news $19.3 million to address High Street. And I know because we've been at events down here, and we had to rush on Thursday night because when it rained, you have to leave because you could be flooded out. So it's a whole city problem, but not every community. And to wrap up another thing, I talked about when we was giving food for the food bank on Airline Boulevard, 120,000 pounds of food every Saturday. And then one Saturday, I saw a community effort of the Sheriff Department and the community pull together to address someone property that lives out of town and well-to-do person. But I would like to see more of that. But I thank God when I went to Arizona and I came back and the Sister Johnson started doing something. And I said, oh, Lord, they began to do a community effort because it's not a city issue. I'm asking for people to come together. Now I want to address some of the city codes that Portsmouth have. They are not living up to their own codes that they come up with. And I have pictures for us, Cavalier Manor. Can I finish my thought?
You can finish your thought.
Finish, for an example, you go on Roosevelt Avenue, a big ditch on the right and one on the left. It's full of trash. And then when you open the floodgate, all that stuff goes right there. Then when you come down, like you're going to this casino, that ditch that's down there from that same property that you got the dumpsters. I went like 4 o'clock in the morning not long ago, and I was going to Wawa to just get out of the house for a minute. And it was 4 a.m. I went and I saw the dumpsters, and I see the sign saying start putting things in the dumpster. But I wanted to say, I would like to see about the water bill, 30 days. Well, me, I only have a son.
Ma'am,
and
you need to wrap it up.
I'm going to wrap it up.
Okay.
We only have my son and my husband and I. But why is it that I have to have 2 trash cans and be double charged because I live in a duplex, but I live in all, I'm not renting it out? I would like to get some answers.
Very good. If
When
you-
we gonna get something done on my property and in my community?
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too. Our next speaker is Mr. Garland Alexander. Excuse me? Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers on our list and there being no other business to conduct by this body, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening. Stay safe and healthy.